IBM, International Business Machines, actually acquired ISS in 2006 for, according to the articles, $1.3 billion cash. Having a passion project turn into a unicorn or $1 billion company, something that you were literally working on while you were a college student. I'm wondering, like, as a human being, what does that feel like when that deal goes through?
When I started the company, to me, it was really to learn. And it wasn't with the goal of selling it in any specific time. I think, we would always look at opportunities. The history of ISS from the beginning of internet security systems, we always had people offer to buy ISS. And fortunately, most of the offers were kind of valued at the time that they were giving it. But we were like, if we keep working on this, our value kept doubling every year. So I was like, why sell now? Let's keep it going. We ended up actually taking the company public. And so the IPO for that was, many years earlier than before it got acquired. So as a founder, that's probably the bigger event in the history of ISS, to go from a private company to now we're on Wall Street. Now you can trade your shares. And so most of or at least in my case, the majority of like your wealth creation is really when you unlock and start selling and diversifying your shares. So I think ISS getting acquired by IBM was more of felt to me like this was the natural part of the overall journey. I've seen it go from my grandmother's spare guest bedroom to getting 10 employees to hundreds to thousands, taking it public, being international, having offices around the world. Very exciting time in my life. And then, I think IBM was a good fit for ISS. So it ended up being a great fit. And I wanted to kind of give back to what got me going. And that's where I actually gave stock from ISS to Georgia Tech. That was what I donated, and that stock got turned into a building.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so cool because I think that many people may have no affiliation as well to their alma mater, if you refer to Georgia Tech as that, because it maybe didn't serve the purposes for you at the time. And so I think that's awesome that you're still so involved and, do give back to Georgia Tech, because many people in your position wouldn't. So that's awesome. The IPO, that makes sense. I think that when you talk about a startup, I think that really is, the first thing on people's mind of, okay, that's the dream, right? Take it public.
That's right.
My question next is a bit more about you specifically and a bit more fulfillment wise, because you are incredibly humble. I've known you for some time now, and yet you have amassed an amount of wealth that most people can barely conceive of or would dream of. And I'm wondering now, so many odd years later, since you would have reached what many people would call ultimate financial freedom, how do you find fulfillment? How do you choose to spend your time? Because for many people, it is waking up and that's what they're hunting. They're hunting, money or all the money in the world or whatever it is. And so for someone who's quote unquote achieved that, what do you do? How do you decide to spend your days?
It's a great question. I think there's parts of my journey that I think were helpful from even the beginning to try and make those decisions. One of the things that I was fortunate having a family member that was into meditation, teach me how to do that. And that actually is a practice that I highly recommend. Anybody who's going to become a founder, or if you are a founder, one of the big challenges, especially in the younger generation, is mental health. And I think we're always on social media and trying to consume it and create it and everything else. And I think meditation's a chance for your brain to reset. And so I would probably say that's been very beneficial in making kind of a reflection of, am I on the right journey? Am I making the right decision? So every decision I've made that was major, I always would meditate on it and kind of make sure I never had regrets, because it was the best decision I could make at the time and the knowledge that I had to do what I did. So ultimately, that was a key part of it. And I think sense of purpose is a thing that I think I asked a lot of people, like, what's what's your purpose? And it's always interesting how many people are like still seeking, like, what is their purpose? And I feel blessed and grateful that I think through meditation and kind of being on my own spiritual journey, a lot of it came from giving back and helping others and being grateful that I've had this very interesting path in life. And then how do I get more people to follow that path, give them the keys that I found that help me be successful? How do I enable them? And I think I actually find that it's more the giving to others that makes it, the world a better place.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think that I've thought about that question too, and the most succinctly I put it is to give my friends and my family and those around me the best possible life I can give them. And that might mean monetarily, it might mean just being there, it might mean whatever it is. But if I'm a net positive to the people I care about, and obviously the more wealth you amass, then the more lives you can change with that. But I think that as long as you're, again, trying to create more of a positive income or like positive outcome for people around you, that's at least how I find fulfillment as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Which is part of the reason why I love talking to, hundreds of thousands of people to just give advice, the things I've learned. The other thing that I think is really interesting about you is still on the topic of like fulfillment is you do seem to be at least somewhat spontaneous when it comes to, for example, hiking Kilimanjaro, which you did recently, which I'm sure there was a lot of planning that went into it, but in the grand scheme of things, maybe not as much as some people who train for years, plan for years. And so I'm wondering how, and then you also joined us on our trip to Lebanon earlier this year, which I'm so glad you got to come see that. But what are these other ways that do you feel like you are trying to create in like an exciting life as well, and making sure that you're able to find fulfillment in ways like that?
It's a good question. I think this year I was turning 50, and I was like, what do you do as a 50-year-old? And on my bucket list of things that I do a thing called mind mapping. I don't know if you've heard of mind mapping. Yeah. So I will sit there and kind of mind map like all my goals and whatever I can think of, right? And then Kilimanjaro has been one of those things on my list of I should do that at some point. And, I think when I was turning 50 in September, I was like, I should do this now. And because I was like, otherwise I'll never do it. And fortunately, I had a friend and a couple that I know that timing-wise, I met up with them, and they're doing Kilimanjaro. I was like, I'm off by like a week or so. I was like, why don't we combine forces? And so ended up getting two other couples to go with us. And it was probably the most challenging physical and mental event in my life. I realized that was probably my peak climbing challenge. I probably will not be doing Mount Everest or any other crazy peak ever, because I found that, halfway through I was like, what the heck did I just sign up for? How do I hit the eject button? But by day 4, it was 7 days. So to climb the mountain ended up by day 5, you go to the summit starting at 11 p.m. 8 hours later through the dark. You can't see anything, just looking up. There's blackness and just a little bit of headlamps ahead of you. You can see like almost like a Christmas tree lights up the mountain. And I'm like falling asleep while still climbing. I ended up I think my only advice to my 20-year-old self would be, if you're going to do Kilimanjaro, do it in your 20s and 30s, but don't wait till you're 50. I was like, never breathed so hard in my life. And
frozen snot to your face.
You're freezing. You're like, what am I doing? And then but it's so rewarding though, because when the sun finally broke, you're at the summit and unbelievable view of the whole, like you're in the clouds. You're like, if that's heaven, you're only there for 20 minutes. So, and I brought my fusion flag and had us all kind of holding it up at the summit. And then it was awesome to come back down and get some oxygen.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the summit, is it like, is there a the peak that is just small patch of land that is the top?
There's a sign.
Yeah.
Like you can't get any higher. You're any higher, you're gonna fall off the earth. So it was pretty high, and but I was blown away by all the people I met on the mountain, and we ended up doing the Serengeti and visiting Rwanda, Uganda, some of the countries nearby, and I met so many young people there that also were trying to learn computer science, and I was like, look, if you guys get a startup going here, I'll invest. So
there you go.
I think I got some future entrepreneurs going on in East Africa.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that for someone who could, I think many people would assume that someone who likes to live as comfortably as possible, to put yourself in pretty much the most extreme discomfort someone could do willingly, I think sort of goes in the face in that. But it's also super cool that you choose to do that.